indeed for joining us today. We have a good sign up today, 85 people, but about half of that normally come in. As you know, I'll say what I always say when we start these: it would be so much nicer if we were in a hotel somewhere and we would be able to get together after this session and have a glass of wine. Hopefully we will be able to do that in September. We are all fingers crossed that we'll be able to run something in London in September, so look out for that. There's details coming out all the time. In fact, we've just sent out a survey, so if you haven't filled it in, please do. Great to have you all with us today. This is actually a follow-up to the Selling in the Digital Age session, which Elena put together for us about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, which was incredibly popular and very successful and has been watched loads on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And one of the big discussions that took place during that was how social media has kind of impacted marketing. And we felt it would be good to revisit this purely from the point of view of social media, what it is, what it does, what you do. So the panel here today are all in their way extremely good experts at social media. And certainly the feeds that come across my LinkedIn and my social media, you guys are very active. And I think from the point of view of the membership and the audience of EuRA, it would be really great to get your expertise, but I'm not expecting you to give any real trade secrets away. But during the session, we just hope to look at how social media has affected how you run your marketing. So first of all, it's great to have you all here. Thank you so much to Jesper, to Rob, to Marie, to Anne, and to Elena. I'm going to ask you to just introduce yourselves. And just the first question I'd like to put to you all is, in the broadest sense, how do you use social media? Is it a brand recognition thing? Is it a direct sales tool? Is it a combination? Jesper, can I start with you? How are you, first of all?
Good. Thank you. And thank you for having me here. So I'm Jesper with Expat Ride. We do car services all around the world. So hence the bikes on the wall. We also focus a lot on environmental CO2 reduction, and that's become part of our message. We use Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube. Most of the social medias we use, but we use it to gain interest and brand recognition for the decision makers in the industry, because the individuals that we sell to mainly use Google to find us. So if you need a car somewhere in the world, you go on Google and you start putting the search terms that you would like to find. And we are in a lucky position where we are ranking number one or two in most countries. So our focus on the social media part of it is more of a brand recognition for the decision makers, whether that be clients or RMCs. So that we're top of mind, because there are very few like us in the industry. So we have to keep constantly pounding the message out there and hoping that we'll be there. And that's both organic and paid advertisement as well on these social media platforms.
Thank you for mentioning that, because again, that's something that I'll come back to, which we didn't talk about in the brief, is whether or not you've actually used the paid features that you can use on, say, Facebook and LinkedIn. So thank you for saying that. I hadn't thought that through. Rob, can I come to you next? How are you, first of all?
I'm good and happy. As of yesterday, the UK seems to have opened its doors to the rest of the world a little bit more, with no quarantine if you have a double vax, which is great. Just wait for the rest of the world to catch up, and hopefully we can all travel around a little bit more. So that's great. I'm Rob Fletcher. I'm with Heart Relocation, and we're a startup. I mean, I still think we could call ourselves a startup based on the fact that we started just before COVID. So everything was kind of put on hold a little bit during the last 18 months. Relocation management company. And really, we've used social media as a tool to first and foremost get some brand recognition, because as a startup, one of the biggest challenges you have is letting people know that you actually exist as a company. So I think that's really been kind of our focus, and the main tool we've used to do that has been LinkedIn, although we do use YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and I think one of the interesting challenges for our industry is that we have kind of different customers, and I think Jesper already kind of mentioned it. The choosers and the users don't necessarily respond to the same messages on the same platform. So, you know, our choosers are corporate mobility procurement people sitting within organizations that probably want to look at it in a slightly more professional way. The users of our service are the people who you're more likely to find on Facebook and Instagram as kind of their preference point going forward. So it's a bit of a quandary, and we kind of working our way through it. And it'll be interesting to hear other people's opinions on how they use social media as well.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you. That's fascinating. And again, from the point of view of being a startup, that's a whole other perspective to this in terms of brand recognition. So thank you. Marie, can I come to you next? How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dom, and you, and thank you for having me here, and hello, everybody. My name is Marie O'Neill. I'm Managing Director of EuRA, Executive Expatriate Relocations, based in Dubai. We're DSB covering the Middle East. When it comes to social media, we definitely use it for brand recognition, not as a selling tool. So more as marketing and brand recognition. We want to be seen as the thought leaders and the specialists in our region. So most of our content and articles are to educate our clients and potential clients. We use LinkedIn mainly, and LinkedIn would be your more, topical educational articles. We use Twitter because it's quite common in this region and used quite a lot in this region for our short conversations. And then Facebook we use as, I suppose, for the fun side of it, and mainly that will be, things that are happening with the staff, short videos, photos. It's very people oriented. So I suppose we use each platform for a different message. So it's definitely brand recognition and to kind of give an insight to our people and what we're doing as a company.
That's fascinating, Marie. Thank you. And we're going to come back to this thing about which platforms and which messages, because again, that's like, for a lot of us, for me in particular, that's a real challenge. Anaya, how are you? Great to see you, and thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's exciting. Very happy to be here with all the panelists. I've seen all of you probably at one point or another in your different talks, the recent one with Elena as well. I'm Anaya Paez. I'm Managing Director of EO Mobility Consultancy, and we're in Spain. We offer services across Spain, mostly Madrid, Barcelona, Bilbao, and Sevilla. So anything anyone needs, we're enjoying a hot summer for sure, but it's nice to be here today with you. So for us, social media really starts from the premise that we are all social beings, social creatures. I think it was in the last talk, I think it was Elena actually who said, we are humans and this is a human to human thing. People are at the core of everything we do. So hence there was no doubt that social media would be important for our business. But further to that, if we think about it in numbers, 57% of the population, of the world's population, are social media users. That's 4.48 billion people out there that are there. So our first premise for social media is really it's a platform to use for good. We like to use it to promote values, positivity, and hopefully, make impact with the things that we do put out there at large. From there, we can trickle it down to, again, we are social creatures. It can, and we firmly believe that's our second premise for social media use in the company, that it is value for the brand and for the business, but also for the people we serve and that we exist for. So from these two, we create everything that we do. More technically then, social media, the strategy or behind that, how we develop it, it's we like to believe that it's part strategy and part experimentation. And from there, we develop everything. So it's a good exercise to connect socially and humanly from a business point of view. Of course, getting your brand out there, your name out there, and being associated to these values and to this part of good and how. It gives an idea of how we do business and what we stand for.
That's so interesting, and thank you so much. Because again, over this year when we have been denied social contact, to be looking at social media from the point of view of actual, its word, social, is a new thing, I think, for all of us. I think we've kind of really seen its value more than before. Also, I'd love to come back to you and to Rob. Rob, you're talking about a startup, and Anaya, you're talking again from the point of view of a new brand. That would be really interesting to look at too. So
sure.
Great.
Sure.
Elena, lovely to see you. How are you?
Hello, extraordinary. As I mentioned before, we are somewhere on the beach with my colleagues, so we will have quite a good time after the session. So I'm very happy to be here.
It's great to see you, and thank you for taking time out. Because so, are you doing a team building thing, or are you just on holiday?
Yes, it's quite a team building. Yeah,
Great.
let's say it this way.
Excellent. And so listen, again, so in its broadest sense, how are you using it? Again, for sales, brand recognition, a mixture of the two, social ability? Yeah,
so actually, I will be very honest, like I am the CEO and founder of Expat Global. Before Expat, actually, I built in the industry another company, consultancy firm, dedicated to the global mobility industry. This was for 14 years, and then I switched and I started a tech startup. So yeah, we are quite very present in social media. But the strategy on social media didn't start very long ago, because yeah, last year we very much focused on so many other things. A startup, it can be hard work. We wanted to focus on the B2B area and then expand. Our plan is to expand to the B2B2C, as our Expat Global Marketplace ecosystem is destinated for, and we have 3 different types of clients. So we have the HRs, the corporates, we have the service providers, and as well the expatriates. We are very active on the LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it's actually one of the platforms where you still can grow organic. Yeah. We are very much focused on the organic growth. We prefer to invest much more behind, yeah, with good content. We have LinkedIn Lives. We spend quite a lot of time to make all this strategy, to invite very valuable guests who are actually giving a lot of knowledge to the audience. And I think this is extremely valuable, because this is our focus, to give value to the audience. I think this is the most important thing. And as I said, we are very much focused on LinkedIn. We do not invest too much at this stage on Facebook, because Facebook, so far right now, it's all about payment ads. You cannot really work or grow organically without a lot of investments behind. And now, because we are very much focused on the B2B, I think that LinkedIn is extremely good to be used as a growing platform for the awareness. Now we are growing as well on Twitter, and we developed a strategy for the YouTube as well.
Thank you so much. Again, LinkedIn Live, we need to talk about that a bit later, because I know you have been incredibly active on LinkedIn Live, and that's really worked for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, so we'll come back to that. Remind me if I forget. Elena, can I stick with you? So so question number 2, do you manage your social media internally? Do you have an external consultancy? Do you have somebody on staff? How does it?
Actually, everything is internally, and being a startup, actually, I am personally involved very much, and I have another senior colleague who is extremely involved, and as well we have a part of the team who is extremely knowledgeable on social media. So we come with the insights from the industry, yeah, because the consultants, the social media experts, they need guidance from our side. Yeah, for me and I will rely now on a post that I made a while ago on the social media. I put a quote that said, "Work for a cause, not for applause." So I strongly believe that many times we as people tend to communicate our will, what we want to do, and we'll always make it about us. And in my opinion, I think this is an extremely faulty approach, yeah? Because if you want your audience to be happy with what you deliver, yeah, and tell everybody about their wonderful experience, then you need to make it about them, not you. Yeah. So we need to ask them what they want. If they don't know this yet, we should provide options for them to choose from, and so on. So I really think that we have to, as people from the company, we should understand what they really want. For me, for example, yesterday we had the Expat Nexus Live, and our guest speaker was our guest speaker is actually our business advisor. He's a veteran Amazonian. He worked with Jeff Bezos for 16 years. And for me, it was like, okay, so we should bring Stefan on an Expat Live session. And what is his superpower? What he can bring on the table for the audience? And yeah, we had the customer obsession, because Amazon and their culture is about customer, and it's actually, they created a cult for this, a Bible for this, how to go around the customer. And I thought that, okay, so for me as a service provider, even as an HR, would be great to understand and to learn from somebody who comes from a different industry, and to learn something. And yesterday, for example, we had extremely valuable insights. I was like, wow, we had discussions with Stefan very, very often, but even on this session, he had so much more to share. And for me, it was very, it was a good assessment, like, okay, this is valuable for the audience. Yeah. So this is something that we will provide for free for the audience. And this is how we actually engage the audience. So it's about them. It's not about us. It's always about the audience. And this is somehow the line that we very much stick on.
It's such an interesting distinction. And in case you haven't seen it, obviously that's still on LinkedIn, but there's also an interview between myself and Elena and Stefan on our YouTube channel as well. But what's interesting about that is that, you're all out there, putting messages out to reach the world. Whereas in EuRA, we're trying to restrict that to being a membership bonus. It's a different sort of challenge. Marie, can I come to you and ask you the same question? Do you manage your media internally, externally? Do you have a consultant?
Yeah, so we're the complete opposite to Elena. We used to manage it internally and didn't do a good job up until about 2 years ago. And the reason being, none of us in the company are marketing specialists, and we didn't have a dedicated marketing person. So we decided to outsource. We met with several individual consultants. And I suppose we were quite lucky that we found a lady that we connected with. She wasn't a specialist in our industry, but she asked the right questions to understand our industry and understand us as a company. So, and I suppose the reason why it works is we sit down, we put an annual strategy together, and then we meet monthly, and management are very much involved in the chosen topics and talking about the topic. So basically our consultant puts the final touches on our topics or what we post. And then we have an internal intern that does all the posting. So we have a consultant that, I suppose, writes our articles and kind of guides us in a way, and as well tells us when we're not going down the right track or when that will not be accepted. For example, wearing masks. There were some photos we took and some staff members didn't have masks on. So she was like, okay, we need to make sure that we have masks on if we're posting these pictures. So it's just giving us little tips, and as well, the angles we can go. Within your company, I suppose you're quite blinkered. And I think it's good as well that she's not in our industry, because she has a different perspective than we would have. So we find that model works really good for us. We've been working with her for the last 2 years. And when the pandemic hit, we actually increased our marketing budget and how much we did with her. And we felt that, when we weren't traveling or going to conferences or doing any business development, we needed to be seen and to be heard. And, our angle is to educate people and talk about things that are topical, both, globally and especially regionally. So, that's the model that we take, and we're very, happy with that, and have seen a huge change in the last 2 years, especially in our audience. And, during the pandemic alone, our audience has increased by 40% across all our platforms. That's the average. So we're very happy with that, and, it's definitely working for us.
No, that's great. I mean, that's like a sort of textbook case of, what works, finding out what worked for you before and after, as it were. That's a really interesting case study. Can I come to you and ask you the same thing? Do you manage this internally?
Yes, we do. And a bit like Marie is saying, to bring in that diversity is really important. Somebody who comes from outside of the industry for us. And we took a bet on, you know, a younger person. We brought someone Gen Z in. Let's see how these people think. They are already increasingly impacting consumer behavior and the way they speak, the way they talk, the way they look at things. We have to be ready for this, you know, upcoming generation, and especially because everyone inside the company is either millennial or, you know, more boomer. So we needed that perspective to come in, but it is internal. She works closely with us, with management. So we set the strategy overall. I do have experience in online marketing, so that comes from here. But then it's more about listening to her perspectives, the way she sees things, and it's infinitely different than what we see. She is, you know, the one that sees our blind spots. Oh, that kind of sounds insensitive, or oh, that doesn't really, you know, make sense to say nowadays, or maybe we can put another spin to it to make it more, you know, broader or more positive or more like that. So she keeps us more in tune with what is really happening out there, or things that we will miss because of our biases, because of our, you know, blinkers. But it is managed internally. We have set times of the week that we just go over everything that's happening. With agility at the core, we are fast at experimenting and iterating. So we set our own criteria for success. That's part of our, let's say, experimentation side, sorry. We set our criteria, what are our KPIs? So we'll measure that weekly, and we keep track of that and say, okay, if this isn't working, let's move on to what is working. Let's try it again. Let's spin it here. But we constantly, in short cycles, and since we work very close together and she is dedicated just to that, she has the numbers up to date. It is a data-driven approach of what's working and what isn't. That keeps us constantly experimenting and putting new things out there. But I think that can happen because it is internal. And we are also, social media, we have the aspect that's external, but we also have an important internal social media aspect where we have an internal newsletter that goes out, where we also keep that communication and that social side going between our team members, because it is distributed team situation. So, but it does help that she is internal and it's a small team, so we can constantly experiment and change and iterate along the way.
Just from the point of view of, again, bringing somebody in from Gen Z is really interesting, from the point of view that, I guess, you know, I'm coming at this for somebody who learned social media. You know, your person's coming at this from the point of view of somebody who's never been without it. It's a really different approach, right?
It is. They're native. It's native to them.
Yeah, yeah. Rob, how about you? Do you deal with this yourself? Because your profile's very, very, very good, very strong.
So, number one, I have to admit to not being an expert in any of this, so I feel slightly embarrassed to even be on this panel as an expert in social media, because we just learn as we go along. And I think, you know, that some of the things that are important to us, number one, we do it all ourselves because we chose to recognize that we have a message as an organization. We try to set our mission out in terms of how we want to set ourselves up as a company, how we want to take care of people, how we want to work with our partners, and we want to be true to that. So trying to hand that over to somebody else felt like it was a bit of an abandonment of that. So we try to be consistent. I think I started my career, centuries ago, in a graphic design studio. And I think that something they said at that point is probably as true today as it was then, that for every dollar that you spend on marketing, 1 cent of it works. The trick is finding out which 1 cent it is, because you can never work that out. And I think the same is true of social media today, is that you can just bombard platforms with all kinds of stuff and something will work and something won't. And it's very difficult to work out which. I think also, you know, listening to what other panelists have said about kind of engaging with younger folks to kind of build their social media, I think we also have to be cognizant of our audience as well, because some of our audience, particularly if we're after the kind of the global mobility, more senior HR folks, they're of a kind of a different age group too. So they maybe don't respond to quite the slightly irreverent messages that some of the younger folks would put out into social media. Because, you know, I've been challenged by some of our younger team that some of the stuff we put out is a bit stiff and a bit boring. And I said, okay, show me what you want to do. And I look at what they want to do and I kind of cringe with, oh my gosh, I can't possibly, you know, put stuff out. And yet I watch other content users who are quite happy using profanity, who use swear words as part of their posts, and it seems okay and acceptable within the space that they work in. I'm just not sure that it would work in ours. Maybe that makes me old-fashioned, I don't know.
No.
I think it's just really about finding your message, being true to your message, and being relentless and consistent in that message. I think that says a lot about you as what you post, because if you're not honest and you're not real about who you are, if you gloss yourselves over in marketing glitz and gloss, I think people are seeing through that right now. You know, the posts that do really well for us are the posts that you expect almost to do least well, because there's nothing there's nothing manufactured about them. Simple pictures. I mean, you know, one post I posted recently, I took a picture of a woman sitting on a bench when I was out walking the dog one morning. It went mental as a post. And all I said is, you know, it was great for me to see this woman just sit and watch the sun go up. How often do any of us do that? And that post seemed to just really gel with people. And if the purpose is, for me, brand recognition, because I don't think we sell anything on LinkedIn, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody buys anything on LinkedIn. I think they buy a thought, they buy a vision, but they don't actually buy anything on LinkedIn. If it really is just getting your brand in front of many people, then finding something that can be a vehicle for that is really important. I'm not sure that answers any questions.
No, it answers it perfectly. It raises a lot of very important kind of issues that, like you say, you know, I'm fascinated that you say the style of post might be completely different according to who it is that you're asking. And when we were all talking here about brand recognition, and, you know, Jesper, I saw you shaking your head and saying, would you use profanity in a post? I mean, no, I would never dream of that. But it's just an interesting difference in the use of social media by different people and different types of people. And Jesper, again, are you handling this internally?
Yes, we are. I've tried several times to outsource it, and what I've found is that there's a lot of education in getting external person up to speed on what it is that we do, because it's such a niche thing. We don't just do car leasing; it's who we help. That is the important part. And the global mobility industry, the relocation industry as a whole that we support is not just leasing a car, because then you go into something completely different and a competition where we can't compete, because now you're competing against actual manufacturers and huge banks and financial institutions. So it's about finding that niche and making a space for yourself. I was listening to when Rob was talking, and it reminded me of a conversation that I had with my daughter recently. She's 15, so she's always being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, what do you want to be? And everybody, you know, at least adults, expects a title, you know, some kind of industry. And I've been struggling a little bit with this, because I ended up being a banker as the first thing, because my mom was a banker, and that just kind of like got stuck in my head. And it was a good experience in the sense that it told me that that's not what I wanted to do for a living. But so I've been working with my daughter about this, and what we've found is somebody who said it's more about what problem you want to fix. So for her to look at a problem in the world that she wants to fix, and who does she want to help by fixing that problem, and instead of focusing on that, because if you do that, then your passion kind of like rises up, and it becomes much more real, and it becomes who you are. And I think kudos to Rob and his team, because I think they really found their niche and their angle from the get-go when they launched Heart Relocation, because there's passion behind that message. And what I found recently is we had a team day that was earlier this year. We're talking about, we're a little bit embarrassed about being part of the whole sustainability problem by assisting with cars, chauffeur service, airport transfer, car lease rentals, all around the world. It wasn't just one place. We were basically doing bad all around the world. But we're also at the same time assisting people with a need that they have and they can't get around at the moment. But so we thought, how can we do better as a company? How can we not be, as we are being part of the problem, how can we be, lessen that impact? And that's when we came up with a new program, EuRA, which focuses on sustainability and lowering the impact of international assignments. And once we got into that, there was a completely different passion behind our message, behind the team. I mean, even the whole team, and I hadn't seen that coming. But when you dig in and you find that passion, that problem you want to solve, and really just, expose that to everyone that you are communicating to, it really makes an impact. So it's not that we see it on the number of engagements on our social media, but we really see is the number of people contacting us, actual business coming out of it, because they can see that we're stepping up. They can see that we want to make a change. Instead of, probably some of the first posts that we did was, we're the best in the world. We have the best service, boring stuff like that. So it's focusing on that passion. And, for the relocation industry and the global mobility industry, I'm also seeing that passion right now, and also with the younger consumers, is about sustainability. And it is the new digital. As they say at Accenture right now. I just read a report where they say sustainability is the new digital. So if you want to, raise your profile right now, social media is about hitting trends, right? And if you want to hit a trend right now, and not just greenwashing, which means seem like you're doing something good, which a lot of industries have been doing for a long time. So if you look at our Fortune 1000 companies that we all want to work with, they've gone through that process themselves. So they'll spot it if you try to get away with greenwashing, because they've seen their corporates, the executives doing this for a decade now. So you're not going to get away with it. But find your passion. So kudos out to Rob and his team for doing that.
I think it's really interesting. One of the sort of meta themes that's coming out of this is obviously the social part of this, but also the sincerity that, people can see through now. We're all much more used to this, and the sincerity of the messages is really key. Jesper, can I stick with you and just ask, everybody has said LinkedIn as being a powerful platform, but for everybody who's listening, can you which platforms really work for you? Clearly LinkedIn. Which ones don't?
Mm-hmm. So I think every platform works. It's just a matter of how much content you continually put on it. Because some platforms, I feel it's important to have your 40, 50 posts there that kind of like covers what you do, every angle of it, and then it can linger there. You don't have to constantly put messages out there. So Facebook, we're posting on. Because Google actually picks up on Facebook more than it picks up on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn, we spend money on as the only social platform, because on LinkedIn, I can go in and target, RMC, employees of RMCs that I would like to show my message to, so that they're constantly seeing what it is that we can assist them with. So this is not so much as a passion project. It's more of a top of mind, and working on the math that for somebody to remember your brand, they have to be exposed to it, and just spend time on it five times at least before they remember it. And that's not just passing by, but actually stopping and just looking at it for a second. And so we use LinkedIn for that, and that's pay to play. That's not organic. So there's the combination of putting really good content out there that that will be exposed in the minute that it comes up, and it'll stay there for a bit. but also where the search engines will pick up on it, that the social tags will pick up on it. And for that, we use actually blogs a lot, the really old school social media, I find very, very valuable because it's content that you control. You control how you rank it on your page, but Google also picks up on it. And if you're struggling with your website being picked up because the competition is so vast in your service area, then my suggestion is to go to medium.com. It is really high quality content. And what we did as a mistake in the beginning, my marketing person, she got overly excited about putting all of the content that we had on, but it was too selling. And they saw through it right away and we got banned. So we had to restart the whole thing and put out actual quality content that is helpful, not just pointing back to us as being the greatest provider in the world, when we say it ourselves, but helping with the content that we share.
I'm getting social, subtle, and sincere out of this at the minute. Elena, can I come to you? Because again, you've been using LinkedIn very successfully for LinkedIn Live, which is something that, before I ask you that, just to say thank you to everybody who's putting comments in the chat box. I will definitely come back and we'll be answering any questions that you have. So again, if you've got questions as things come up, please pop them in there. Yeah, Elena, you use LinkedIn Live very successfully. Can you tell me how that came about and what you decided to use it for?
So actually, what we want to do with XPAT, so actually XPAT has 3 different types of clients. So we target HRs, the corporate, we target the service providers, and we target as well the expatriates, meaning that we created an ecosystem for everybody, a tech ecosystem for everybody to have a transparent way of doing mobility. So for us, it's more complex, to address the social media, because we have 3 types of clients that we have to take care. And we had various talks on this, on how we can target more and how we can touch our audience on a larger scale. So based on this, actually, we came out with the LinkedIn Live, which is actually a big investment that we make on it, because we try to really create good content, authentic content, genuine content for the audience. I think that my belief is that, especially on the social media platform, it's not about paid ads or enormous budgets with LinkedIn, but I think that our focus should be to speak with the customers and give them the solutions to their problem in almost every post that we do, in every live that we do. And we try very much to keep ourselves authentic and to have quality content. And through those live sessions, actually, we are trying to we will have sessions with a general approach, like the one that we had yesterday, how you can wow your customers, how you can build a customer obsession into your organization and to stand out of the crowd. I think 1 month ago we had a LinkedIn Live session with based on the sales, how you can elevate a pitch in few seconds with a professional public speaker. And then we have, because we want to bring the service providers in the front line, and we want to bring them and to expose their ideas, their knowledge into the social media. And we have this format, a company, like an HR corporate company with 2 providers. And we had a session 2 weeks ago with a corporate company and 2 tax providers. And we discussed about serious topics or what the HR should consider when they transfer employees and so on and so forth. So it's all like we have this focus on, genuine content and valuable content for the audience. This is actually our focus. And I very much liked what Rob said in regards to, this the way our generation, for me, myself, I would post something or my message, how my message would look like versus the Gen Z, because I'm a millennial. I'm a millennial, but still with Gen Z, there are, I think there are some gaps because in the beginning, when I started to work with with my social media team, who is much younger than me, we had a lot of debates like, oh, you have to post, if you want a lot of engagement, you have to post from time to time something about your kids and your family. And I was like, no way, this is not negotiable, or you want to post this and this sounds a bit dusty, let's put some more color on it. So, but slowly I really understood their approach. Of course, some things are non-negotiable. For example, my my pictures with my family or my children, well, this is not negotiable. But I really understand through their eyes why many things are so important. And for example, last year I was very much against TikTok, very much against. It was like, no way, TikTok, that's something I would never do. And we had so many discussions on this platform. I even read a lot of things about this TikTok, and I understood actually the value. And now I really have a totally different approach, and we want to invest and to communicate through this platform as well.
Look forward to you dancing on TikTok, Elena.
Sorry?
Look forward to you dancing on TikTok.
But it's not only about dancing, this is what I thought, that it's gonna be only about dancing, but it's not. So yeah, I'm ready for it.
I think, Dom, the next conference we'll all have videos of us on TikTok of us dancing. We'll get that up.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, we'll have to do that. I think that does, again, that raises another interesting point, which is, the field of platforms moves and moves and moves. And a couple of people have put comments in the chat about Clubhouse, but we'll come on to that in a minute. And I wanted to ask you the same thing. Again, which platforms work best for you?
Well, for us, it's coming back on a lot of the things that we've all said or that have been mentioned here. Sustainability is important. So what is sustainable for your organization? So we're only on 2 platforms. We're concentrating on Instagram and on LinkedIn. We have very clear which audience we are trying to reach, or we are in effect reaching. Thankfully, it is giving the results we are creating that we want. So who we're reaching out to on Instagram is one set of people, an age group, and who we're reaching out to on LinkedIn, which is the other platform that we're using in that sense. What we have done, and keeping it simple because it is in-house, if we want to be successful at what we're doing, we've set very clear categories of the types of posts that will fit the business needs and that could add value to the people we serve, be it visibility, be it engagement, be it leads, be it sales. And every month we say, okay, so many, this percentage of posts will go into this category. And we work on that to start picking and collecting data on what works in that field. So in the future, we'll have more go-to information and keep trying from there. But definitely key to be on any platform is everything, just repeating on what everyone has said, that authenticity and that consistency. Because if you're not yourself and you're not authentic, people can see right through it and they're not going to connect more than anything. So that's it. It's a wasted effort. If you're not connecting, if you're not being social and engaging with them, it's a back and forth, right? You want to hear from them. What you put out has to have some sort of input for you as well. That tells you about your consumer, about the user, about the customer, whoever is on the other side of what you're putting out there. And then that consistency. People, of course, you rely on something that's consistent. That's, I think, for all of us. It's not. It can't be one day it's there in one way and then doesn't come back, or there's a gap, there's silence. What happened? where did it go? Further to, of course, always trying to match the platform with the message and your audience, and the message being the content and the form that you're putting out there for each. You can't put the same post that you do on LinkedIn, maybe exactly the same on TikTok. That's not going to work. So the platforms themselves give you an idea of what kind of format you're going to be putting out there, but then it's matching the message with the audience that you're reaching out to on each platform. So for us, sustainable right now is staying on these two platforms. Another word that came up is quality. So to ensure that it's sustainable, that we can be consistent, and that we can show up with quality, we are sticking to these two platforms initially. And we believe every day that quality over quantity will definitely win the game.
Yeah, again, fascinating insight. Madalena says the same thing that you've just said. No matter what channel you use, consistency is important. If you post once and then for 3 weeks you disappear, it's all for nothing. Rob, what platforms do you, I mean, LinkedIn, clearly, I've seen you have a very powerful presence on LinkedIn. Are you using anything else?
Yeah, so everything we post multi-channel. So what we post on LinkedIn with slightly different messaging. So the content remains the same, but the words that are attached to it kind of change. So we, as a kind of absolute consistency through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And it's interesting, I probably don't spend a lot of time on those in terms of propagating them, not nearly as much as I spend on LinkedIn. And Facebook goes nowhere. And I think, everybody says, unless you're prepared to put your hand in your pocket with Facebook, nothing's ever going to happen with it, frankly. Insta is probably the most interesting one, because that seems to grow without any effort at all. I probably get more, so-and-so's just followed you, so-and-so's just followed you off my Instagram feed than I get off any other, to be honest with you. So that's quite an interesting one. I think the other thing that is important is also the vanity and sanity discussion, in terms of, we talked about it a little bit before we went live, but why are we posting on social media? Are we posting because we want to be liked? Because we can post stuff and create stuff that gets us 1 million likes, but doesn't actually result in accelerating our business any further forward. It just means that a lot of people like us. Well, you know what? That's probably just vanity at the end of the day, because ultimately all we want is to improve our businesses, and improving our business is for all of us. And I guess everybody who's watching right now ultimately means improving and increasing our customer base, whether that's direct clients, whether that's consumers, whoever that may be. That's ultimately what we want to get to. And I'm not sure that anybody's found the magic ingredient for that right now. I think, without giving away trade secrets, because we don't have any, because we're all just finding stuff out for ourselves right now. I think one of the things that we've used successfully in terms of just expanding our message out is actually giving something back. So kind of fitting into that sustainability, we created 2 groups within LinkedIn, supported by us in terms of time. One was Finders Keepers, which was basically recognizing a problem in lots of people not having jobs in mobility because of the pandemic, and lots of people posting jobs in mobility because people had gone or hadn't arrived or whatever. And if you're on LinkedIn, you miss that stuff. So actually trying to find a way of grabbing it all together, that group went mental. I mean, it has thousands upon thousands of members now, and it has a life all of its own. And the other one was kind of almost a backlash to the social media frenzy caused by International Women's Day, where one of our team said, I'm sick to death of all of these companies posting how they support International Women's Day, who probably, when you look at those organizations, don't actually do any of that. So they're all very good at putting social media messages out that, yes, we support women, and yes, we love the power of women. But if you look at the executive team of that company, and you look at the senior management of that company, you struggle to find any woman in a senior position. So how do those two messages balance out with each other? And I think that's also goes back to a point that Anna made about being honest about who you are and what you are. If you believe in us, if you believe in something, then post it and show you believe in it. But don't post something if you don't believe in it, because people will see through it. And you probably do your brand more damage in the long run than you'll do it benefit.
That's really interesting. It comes back to what Jesper was saying about sustainability and greenwashing. It's a bit like, you know, there is a bandwagon sense of a lot of companies jumping on specific causes and trying to ally themselves with the causes, and then it just becomes insincere. And everything that you've all been saying about your use of social media is about the sincerity of it. Marie, can I come to you? What platforms work for you?
Well, we only use LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And I suppose it's kind of just listening to everything. It's a bit hard to keep up with them all. And as well, you know, keep it simple. And it's about quality over quantity. So we find that those three work for us. LinkedIn, probably we would use the most, and for our topical articles and to educate people. Twitter then for your quick conversations, and Twitter is very popular in this region. And then Facebook for the fun side of it. So, you know, for our staff engagement this year it's our people and culture is one of our strategies this year at EER. So we post a lot of videos there, challenges we have with the staff. We do a rock star gathering every month and we post that. So it's kind of all the fun stuff goes on Facebook, and then the more serious or educational stuff on LinkedIn. But, you know, it's been really interesting listening to everyone here. I've been actually making notes on all these things, and it's, you know, it's so hard to keep up with it. Like even Clubhouse, I don't know, maybe I'm a dinosaur, but I hadn't even heard of it. So it's like, God, I need to actually, you know, spend more time on marketing and having more meetings myself and engaging more in it, because there's so much out there. And, you know, I think Renee commented that how important it is as well to get your staff engaged. And we found that quite difficult at the beginning, but it is really important, and getting them engaged and commenting and liking your posts. And again, it makes it feel more real. And when your staff are posting your articles, again, it, you know, it brings that real element to it. But it's just been really interesting listening to everyone, all the panelists, and what you've had to say. And I've, you know, actually learned loads in this 50 minutes so far.
So have I. It has been absolutely fascinating. I'm going back to Clubhouse. Thank you, Renee, for bringing that to our attention. There is actually a global mobility group on Clubhouse. It's called Global Mobility. But again, global, it's only something I've dipped my toe in the water. I know you have to be invited to join it, right?
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Okay. Right. Thank you. There's loads of comments and chat in the box. So I'm going to ask, I'm glad you mentioned that about staff engagement, because I think that's really key. Rob, because again, your team are very engaged.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And I think we are very engaged, and I think we want to be very open. So we do post quite a lot of stuff. I think, you know, Elena mentioned, you know, that family was kind of sacrosanct, where I have posted my kids. I mean, you know, I'm not going to be, but they wanted to be, because they're very much, you know, at the end of the day, my then 12-year-old, now 14-year-old daughter actually named the company. So she kind of is invested in what we do to a greater or lesser extent. But, you know, with the wellness tips, our editing committee is everybody in the team. So, you know, we are now a group of 8 employees. That's the editing committee. So they all get to see every wellness tip. They all comment on it, and we make changes, and we dump some, and we do different things as a result of what they say. And I think it is important, you know, particularly if you have a mission, that everybody's part of that. Everybody's part of what you put forward as your vision of yourself to the world. And I think it comes across. I hope it comes across. I think it's really important.
I agree. I think team engagement is huge. Yeah, Jesper.
Yeah, I just want to make one point. I mean, we've been talking a lot about the seriosity of your message and your purpose and your passion, which is true. But I think the first step also and I'm guessing a lot of the people listening today are, you know, smaller companies, as everyone here. It's also perception. I mean, first thing is that if you're a startup or if you're a small company, you have to also make sure that the perception of you as being serious with your own business is how much you invest in your, you know, online branding. And if you go to a company's Facebook page or LinkedIn page, and they have like 57 followers, and you know it's a 3-year-old company or even older, what does that tell about them? I mean, my take is that Are they taking themselves serious? Is this a front? How many people do they actually have? You know, there's a lot of things there. It's the same when you go to I hope nobody here are still doing it, but let's say you have a blog and you haven't posted on it for 2 years, but it has a date stamp and you have a feed on the front page of your website where you have, all right, this, news, and it says 2019, right? It's just remove the date stamp. You can do that in WordPress. It's easy. But it's a lot about perception too. When you're a small company, you want to be perceived bigger than you are. And you want to, so there's also that to it. So it's not just if you're struggling with the passion part of it, which can be difficult, start sharing other people's passion. I mean, that's a great way of borrowing and sharing. It's also, I mean, it's like any original thought. I don't know if it's Einstein. Let's just give it to Einstein. He's a smart guy, but that said that 95% of an original thought comes from inspiration from others, and so sharing is a lot about also caring about others. So if you can't come up with content, if you're struggling to produce, then just sharing great stuff. You can go to Rob's page. I'm getting a lot of kudos to Rob today, but he does have some the wellness is so easy to share, right? It's good things. So just go out there and find some great stuff. It could be anything and just share it. Put a little comment on it, your own thoughts on why this is worth sharing. That's easy content.
And there's a couple of questions I want to come to, but just on that point, are there any, specifically within LinkedIn, are there any groups that you post into that you find are really useful? If anybody has a response to that.
I think the most recent one, sustainability and global mobility, is really good, because what I've found on that group is that nobody's promoting themselves. Okay. Nobody's pointing towards themselves, which is done on all the other groups. But here people are actually sharing great points and from thought leaders of the world outside of the global mobility industry, because we really, are still lacking those thought leaders within the industry that is stepping up and doing something, incredible. So a lot of good thoughts there. So, search on global mobility and sustainability. You'll find a group, a lot of good stuff there.
Thank you, Jesper. That's great. And just a big plug, we're actually releasing our MIM Plus module on sustainability, which is being developed right now by Paul Barnes in September. One question, Renee Stegman, thank you very much. What do you think of the future of newsletters? Privacy issues seem to be hampering this marketing channel. What are your thoughts? Who would like to start?
I'll take it.
Go.
Because I actually had a thought on newsletters too, because a lot of the stuff that we share on social media is a great way to test content for your newsletter, because you can't send out newsletters as often. Some do, but I don't feel that it's appropriate to send out every week. We do send out a lot, but it's a great way to check your content and get some feedback. Are people engaging in this? It's also a great way to lead people to your content. So if you feel you have some great stuff on LinkedIn that you would like people to read, link to that, get some more likes. So we do a lot of newsletters, and it's actually, for us, it's our strongest tool still. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, it's the primary way that we communicate after social media is by using targeted bulletins. But then it's quite simple for us. We're a membership organization. It's a different thing. Does anybody else use that medium? Not so much. Marie?
Yeah, we do, and we send out, but it's like a specific article, not a newsletter with several articles. It's like one topic each time. And I think you need to be very careful as well not to, overwhelm people. So how often you send those, again, it's quality over quantity, and making sure it is a quality content article and that you're not sending them out that often. And, I suppose it's made me think that Renee's question, how relevant are they, or moving forward, will they be as relevant? Will it just be your social media platforms and it's a choice for people to read or follow?
we are at time. Thank you to everybody who's put comments and into the chat and into the Q&A. It's clearly a topic that, you know, I think we're all enthralled to, either gleefully or regretfully. It's difficult to tell some days. But Jesper, Rob, Marie, Elena, and I thank you so much for taking part in this. I think Priya has just said, how about a colourful mobility themed space where we can make short videos at the next EuRA conference? What do you think? I think that's a great idea. We will clearly be revisiting this topic again and again, and hopefully in person in Seville.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Fingers crossed.
And maybe even, you know, we can chat in September. But again, thank you so much, panel. You've been absolutely brilliant. You've brought some really, really fascinating topics to the fore. Thank you to everyone who's attended today. This will be on YouTube tomorrow. And again, check out our YouTube channel. Madalena made a very interesting comment a minute ago about when we were talking about LinkedIn Live with Elena. She said, I got my practice in 2018 in Munich doing the Ignite session. And her on our YouTube channel, look it up, it's great. Thank you so much for taking part today. Thank you to everybody for joining. And we look forward to seeing you all very soon, hopefully in person. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.